What do those Democratic pro-choice women, or frankly pro-choice independents or otherwise across the country, want to hear from these two candidates tonight?
Well, what pro-choice voters want to hear, and we know that that is the overwhelming majority of voters, are voters who believe that we should have the freedom to make these choices for ourselves. What they want to hear tonight is what is the contrast between these candidates? And that is something that we've talked a lot about through this election and will be on display tonight, which is that we have a choice in this election between a ticket and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who are going to move us forward, who have pledged to restore the rights and the freedoms that have been taken away from us, versus Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who really represent the polar opposite. You know, J.D. Vance has said that he would like to see abortion illegal nationwide, totally illegal. That is where he stands. And we know that if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance get into power, that is what they are going to do. They are going to pursue a national abortion ban and some of the darkest elements of Project 2025. And so that is the choice that's in front of voters in November, and what we need to make sure is in front of voters every day until then.
So what should be Tim Walz's posture on this issue tonight? It sounds to me like no matter what comes up, you and your membership would like to hear him change the topic to this very potent issue, knowing there are single issue voters watching here, and that this is a way to keep J.D. Vance on the defense. Is that right?
Governor Walz has a really incredible story to tell when it comes to reproductive freedom. The work that it was done in Minnesota really demonstrates what we can do nationwide if we put Democratic pro-choice leaders in power. They have secured abortion rights in Minnesota. And so that is the opportunity that voters have in this election on a national level. So I would expect that Governor Walz, he's done this work. He knows what he's doing. He is going to talk about that, his history on the issue of reproductive freedom, and talk about connecting that back into the vision that Vice President Harris and he have for this country as one in which we can make sure that everybody has these freedoms, that it's not just determined by your zip code.
Well, Jessica, as we consider how this issue is playing in the critical states that ultimately could decide this election, we did get news out of Georgia just this week where a judge overturned the state's 6-week abortion ban. It now is a 22-week limit instead. Do you worry that makes a difference in terms of the galvanizing effect restrictive abortion laws could have in a state that is such a battleground?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to say that anytime we have an opportunity for people to access health care and abortion care and have these restrictive bans lifted, that is a good thing. When it comes to the political issue, the truth is that what voters don't like is this idea that their rights and their freedoms should be determined, like I said, by the zip code they live in, or should be at the whims of a judge. Whether you get a judge who supports reproductive freedom or one who's been appointed by extremists and will hold up these bans, as has happened in so many other places across the country. The truth is that every single person in America should have access to this health care. We've seen the devastating impact when they don't. And that is what voters want, and that's what they're voting on.
To what extent is this debate tonight a fundraiser?
Well, I don't know about a fundraiser. I think, anytime we have an opportunity for candidates to be in front of voters, it's an opportunity for them to talk about their visions and to share with the American public where they stand, the contrast between them and their opponents. And I think for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they have really done an incredible job of laying out a vision for the future. And that's something that we've seen a response to. Yes, grassroots fundraising.
This is an opportunity, though, for Emily's list, right? You must have the emails ready to go out tonight to click the button. This is one of the last major moments in this campaign.
Well, it is true that we have just a few short weeks left in this election cycle. And so we're using every possible opportunity that we can, debate nights or not. It is really about making sure that people know what we're doing, the programs that we're running, but more than that, making sure that we get in front of voters. So that's absolutely critical today and every other night between now and November.